What it do, cuckolds? It's your boy, the Hater, up in this piece. And the Hater has been working this evening and decided to take a break from his work and started to watch, Saturday Night Main Event on his laptop. So I didn't even close my work. I just figured I'd watch this shit and then get back to work and finish strong for the day. You know what I mean? As I close out this week. Now, I regret doing this. I mean, it was a good break because I was working for like 4 hours nonstop. But the reality is that, it was a complete waste of your boy's time up in this mug. You understand me? This was not a good event. Now, some of the stuff that happened was decent. You know what I mean? In a vacuum, it was decent. But once again, this show failed to capture the logic of wrestling, right? There wasn't one surprise that was worthwhile. And most importantly, and this is a tricky thing, and in my opinion, sets a dangerous precedent. This is simultaneously a PLE, right? It's structured like one in the sense that there's no promos or anything. It's just matches and commercials. But they also have actual commercials. I was watching on Peacock, but presumably it was being played on live TV as well. But I just knew it was on Peacock, so I just went there. It was a mistake. The Peacock app not as good as the Hulu app. Nevertheless, the point I'm trying to make is they've introduced even more commercials, with this new format. And in my opinion, it's inexcusable, The amount of actual wrestling content was very, very small, all things considered. But it was a 2-hour show, so it went by quick, you know what I mean? We opened up, let's go through it segment by segment, like the Hater tends to do up in this piece. We go over it segment by segment. The first segment, if you will, is they show everybody coming in. You know what I mean? This is just par for the course at this point, right? Everybody comes in, and this is effectively a pay-per-view, we're led to believe. And the card is, arguably better, but it's not, right? Because everyone here is unequivocally a mid-carder. I don't care if we have two champions. They're both mid-carders, right? Gunther hasn't done anything to elevate himself from going from the mid-card to the quote-unquote main event, right? He beat Orton, but so what? So did Logan Paul for the U.S. title at WrestleMania. Orton is a mid-carder now. Until Gunther wrestles a main eventer, and beats them, he's not going to be considered a legitimate main eventer. The only main eventer, arguably, that he has wrestled is Cookie Rhodes. But I consider Cookie Rhodes also to be a mid-carder, right? The entire story revolves around Roman Reigns. And the difference between this and that last PLE is that several names that wrestled on the PLE didn't wrestle today and vice versa, right? So Roman Reigns, CM Punk. These are the only two guys that, in my opinion, have a chance of winning the Royal Rumble. So, whatever, it is what it is. Aside from, Cena and Rock, you know what I mean? But anyways, the worst part of this was the predictability, so let's get to the first match. I didn't even know this match was happening. Drew McIntyre versus Sami Zayn. The match was what you would expect. An Intercontinental title level match, presented as something bigger than it is. The finish of the match was incredibly stupid. Basically, after Sami Zayn does the Blue Thunder powerbomb, shortly thereafter, Drew McIntyre rolls to the outside of the ring to avoid a haluva kick. Sami Zayn chases him. Then Drew McIntyre rolls inside the ring. Sami Zayn chases him, and as he chases him, he gets Claymored in the face, and Drew pins him. Who cares? Why would anyone give a rat's ass about this, right? This goes to show that Drew McIntyre is now back to being a mid-carder. You know what I mean? He can barely beat Sami Zayn, who just lost his title a few months ago to Braun Breaker, right? Sami Zayn, who's pretty much lost every match on his own and has only won matches where it's him and other people. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. The match wasn't important, so I don't have much more to say about this. You know what I mean? Beyond this, as I said, this was an intercontinental level match. Not a title match necessarily, but it was a solid mid-card match, And it wasn't presented as such really because they still want us to fear Drew McIntyre, but it's now he's going after the Usos and Sami Zayn. Why doesn't he go after Roman Reigns, Doesn't he have any aspirations to become a champion? But whatever, that is what happened, so that's where we're going to leave it at. Then we've got the Io Sky match. Io Sky versus Liv Morgan. I skipped through this match, largely, obviously, right? And basically, it was just a bunch of girls just rolling around. They both look exactly the same in terms of their wardrobe, so why should I care about any of them? As with any other Io Sky match, The match is predicated, it is contingent on whether or not Io Sky hits the moonsault. If she hits the moonsault, she wins. If she misses the moonsault, she loses, right? This is a very common thing for wrestlers who have like a top rope finisher, right? However, in the past, it wasn't always like this. So for example, Jeff Hardy might get like a situation where you don't expect it at all, and then he hits the swanton, right? Like he might climb a ladder, throw the guy off the ladder, and then swanton him. You know what I mean? But like nowadays, Io Sky just like does the little bullet train attack, right? Then she climbs the turnbuckle, goes for the moonsault. If she hits it, she wins. This time, she didn't hit it. Liv Morgan puts up her feet, kicks her in the face, and as soon as that happened, you're like, this match is over. Liv's gonna win. That's exactly what happened. 2 seconds later, Liv hits the Oblivion. Kudos to Io Sky for selling this move well, right? A lot of times, both ladies just like kind of roll. The person taking it rolls forward, and the person doing it rolls backwards. But this time, basically, Io spiked herself, right? She got pinned. Liv Morgan moves towards the ramp, and Rhea Ripley's music hits. I'm fucking sick and tired of Rhea Ripley. Every time Liv Morgan does something, it must end with Rhea Ripley making an appearance. This time, she didn't even attack her. She just came and do a stare down. It was really weird. It's like, how many times do you have to do this? Like, you already whooped her ass. Like, what was the point of War Games? You beat her ass. You had your title match. You haven't done anything else in like a year. You know what I mean? Rhea Ripley had like one match against Raquel, and it was the only match she had on Raw for like nearly a year, since like April or some shit. You know what I mean? So what I got to say about that, and this is despite the fact that she's been back since like, I don't know what, July? And she's been back for a minute, you know? But she hasn't wrestled on Raw. Yet she still gets these opportunities. I don't know why. Like, what has she done to deserve this? She won the Royal Rumble like 2 or 3 years ago by being number 1. So what? Now all she does is like get her ass beat by Liv Morgan. So she's out again. Luckily, this didn't lead to anything more than Liv Morgan raising the title. Like, when is this going to end? You know, just give me a fucking deadline when this feud's going to end. Like, when is Rhea Ripley going to have her final chance? What, is she going to just get continuous opportunities? What about everybody else? You know? Like, Io Sky gets opportunity, it still becomes about Rhea Ripley. Anyways, the match wasn't anything to write home about or anything to kill yourself over, so we don't give a rat's ass about it. Then we have the triple threat. Another Intercontinental title level match, right? Another solid mid-card level match. Nothing crazy happened. Nothing interesting happened. And the stakes just didn't feel like a big deal, right? This is the problem with Gunther and simultaneously with the World Heavyweight title, because the problem isn't just with him. It's also when Seth Rollins had it, right? It's like, it just doesn't feel like a world title. Nobody cares about it, so it doesn't feel important. Gunther never defends it. He lost to Cookie Rhodes at like the Crown Stool match. So there you have it, right? Basically, this match, if you had to summarize it in 2 sentences, is that Gunther no-sells everything. The finish of the match is as follows. Basically, Damian Priest hits the Razor's Edge on Gunther. Gunther rolls out, right? Finn Balor is about to do like the coup de grace, and then Gunther gets up and pushes him off the top rope after just taking a finisher, right? Anyways, whatever, fine. It's one finisher, it's a pay-per-view. All right, we'll tolerate it, right? Then the match continues, and basically what happens is Gunther gets the south of heaven, right? Meanwhile, Finn Balor's already up in the turnbuckle and hits him with a coup de grace. That's 2 more finishers that Gunther takes. He once again rolls out of the ring. Basically, what's it called? Damian Priest and Finn Balor are still wrestling. Gunther just comes in, or actually first he drags out Damian Priest, barely lifts him up for the powerbomb, but to his credit, he does manage to do it. When he tried to lift him, the momentum was stopped because Damian's feet, as he was being lifted into the powerbomb, touched like the steel steps of the outside. So Gunther had to actually use some core strength, and so did Damian Priest, to do this. So the powerbomb didn't look great, but it was on the steel steps, so that's pretty badass. Then he goes into the ring, does the little T-Rex dropkick on fucking Finn Balor, powerbombs his monkey ass, and pins him, right? It's as simple as that. Now, there's no reason for him to be afraid of, of Damian Priest anymore. He just whooped his ass, and then he also whooped Finn Balor's ass, right? He pretty much just squashed them both and no-sold their finishers. So now, why the hell would I care about what either of these guys does next? As far as I'm concerned, the next logical feud for someone like Damian Priest is to wrestle someone like Karrion Kross. He's falling down the card, you know what I mean? He was already a paper champion because he was like this cowardly heel for like 90% of the time that he had the Money in the Bank. It was only until like right before WrestleMania where he started being a man a little bit and he won the title, like not fair and square. He was the Money in the Bank, but he started turning face, you know? And then he started looking badass when Finn Balor betrayed him. But now he's just losing again, so who gives a rat's ass? You know what I'm saying? That's how that went down. Next up, we had a match, Chelsea Green versus Mia Yim. This match was my favorite match of the night, probably, only because it was the only match where something that, mattered happened, right? It was predictable. I thought Chelsea Green was going to win, but I would be okay with Michin as well. Either way, a new champion is going to be crowned. And even though this title is completely meaningless and no one's ever going to give a flying fuck about it, it still is a new title being crowned, right? And the way that the WWE works, you know what I mean? Like, if you really think about it, it's like the rebranding of all the world titles and the tag team titles every couple of months at this point means that the Intercontinental and US title are like the most, not prestigious obviously, but they're the most long-standing titles, right? The Intercontinental title is like 60 years old or whatever, like in 1960, Pat Patterson, whatever, all that bullshit, right? It's an old title, you know? Whereas and same thing with the women's US and women's Intercontinental title, I don't see them, rebranding those, right? But it's like you have the Universal title, nobody cared. You have the World Heavyweight title, the first one, it's gone. You have the Undisputed title, it's no longer undisputed, even though they call it undisputed. It can't be undisputed if there's two champions. Then you have the World Heavyweight title again, doesn't have the same lineage, so it's like a new title. And then you know that once Gunther breaks the record, if someone breaks the record, they're going to just introduce a new title and say someone else broke the record, right? You know how the Usos are the longest reigning SmackDown tag team champions, but they're not the longest reigning world tag team champions? And then there's the world heavyweight tag team champions. It's the same titles have been branded 100 different ways. And as a result, it's everyone has some sort of accolade, right? Everyone is the youngest of something, the oldest of something. They're the heaviest, the longest reigning. So, the U.S. title, women's or men's, stays clear, right? So when Gunther, I will give him some props, when Gunther breaks the record for longest Intercontinental title run, he's competing with a lot of people, right? Finn Balor is the first ever Universal Heavyweight Champion, but that title doesn't even exist anymore. It's like being the first ever WCW champion. Except only if the WCW Championship lasted for 3 months, like the Universal title did. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. The match was good for what it was. Both Chelsea Green and Michin can do cool moves. Piper Niven was also involved, and Chelsea Green had a moment. Basically, the match ends after some distractions by Piper. Chelsea's on the top turnbuckle. Michin runs in. She gets slapped, which forces her to turn around. And then basically, Chelsea Green grabs her arms and flips forward into the Unpretty Her, jumps and does the Unpretty Her and pins her 1, 2, 3. So not a clean win, but a definitive win, right? Nobody ever talks about that. There's pinning someone clean and then there's pinning someone definitively, right? So for example, if Rey Mysterio beats Booker T clean by rolling him up, that's not as impressive as if there's a little bit of interference, but then Rey Mysterio hits a finisher and pins him. This was the latter of those two scenarios, right? So, good for Chelsea Green. I'm happy for her. She looked good too. She's in good shape, She could be a decent, not a star maybe, but a quasi-star. Definitely a wrestling star, as I said in a few videos ago. Because Chelsea Green has a lot of passion and attitude, right? It's pretty much just her and Bianca Belair that have any kind of charm to them. You know what I mean? It's you see Chelsea Green, you're oh, okay, this girl's into it. You know what I mean? She's into her job. Bianca Belair as well, she has some charm. Everybody else is kind of just there. You know what I mean? For example, Jade Cargill, she just goes there and poses, right? She's like a female Lesnar or a female Lashley, where they don't really have any kind of passion that they bring to the table. They're just there for a different reason, right? For their looks, for their superiority physically, But versus let's say Gunther. He has like no passion. Like his whole gimmick is I'm passionate about wrestling, but he shows no passion. Versus let's say like Rusev, right? Like compare Rusev to like Cesaro, right? Cesaro zero passion. He just comes out, just like puts on a wrestling match and then goes back, right? Rusev comes out, just yells, screams, acts like an idiot. You know, he has passion, and Chelsea Green has passion, so that made me happy. Then we have the main event. Oh, also I should say, Jesse Ventura was involved today. He's on commentary. He's as good as he always has been. I mean, obviously not as good because he hasn't done it in a long time, but he's good. He's a good a very good commentator. I didn't think it could be done, Gorilla. You know what I mean? But so he was also commentating in the main event. The main event starts, like there's like 30 minutes and they're like left in the show and they're like, main event is next. So we get a commercial, a promo package, a commercial, Cody Rhodes' entrance, Owens' entrance as well, a commercial, and then the match starts. So like 15 minutes are just completely wasted on something that we saw earlier today and probably in the pre-show and probably like yesterday on SmackDown. So 15 minutes of the show is just complete waste of time, right? But they got a lot of commercials out of it. The match starts. It seems that the fans are more behind Kevin Owens. This is very odd, right? I'm not saying that the turn on Cody Rhodes is happening, although the timing would be immaculate, because I said in about 8 months, remember, after WrestleMania, I said in about 8 months, people are going to start turning on Cody. It might take a little bit longer, only because like Cody hasn't wrestled nearly enough times, you know, and they did that. That's kind of smart. They did it on purpose, right? Cody Rhodes never wrestled, so there's no opportunity to turn on him because we haven't seen him do anything yet, right? We haven't seen him like screw it up, right? In addition, a lot of the shows after WrestleMania were in like, you know, Dortmund and like fucking Belfast, you know what I mean? Where these people haven't seen wrestling in like 30 years. So like for them, it's like, oh shit, like they'll cheer anything, you know what I mean? Like the show in France, like they're cheering like fucking everybody like it's The Rock. So if once you take all that veneer away and you normalize shit again, you could see that the fans were more behind Kevin Owens. Now, I'm not saying that this means that Cody Rhodes has failed, because we already know that he's failed. But it goes to show that even Kevin Owens can get a better reaction than Cody. Earlier in the night, I read an article, right? I'm trying to find out what time it was on and where to watch it. So I read an article, like really quickly. It was like 5 things that need to happen tonight. And one of them was Kevin Owens needs to win the world title from Cody Rhodes. And in that subsection of the article, the writer was like, you know, Kevin Owens is like a legitimate heel. You know, and I'm like, what are you talking about? Kevin Owens hasn't won a match in like 2 years. You know, he hasn't done anything of value since 2 WrestleManias ago, where he and Sami Zayn won the tag team titles, which in my opinion is a step down for them, because Kevin Owens is a former world champion. Whether I like it or not, those are the facts, right? So Kevin Owens is a complete and absolute jobber. At best, he's a mid-carder, and like people are cheering him over the world heavyweight champion. You know, and this was most pronounced at some key moments in the match. First of all, Kevin Owens predictably does that little counter superplex thing that he does, which is pretty cool, right? And then he tries to pin Cody, doesn't work, it never has. And then basically, long story short, Cody goes for one of his 19 attempts at the Cody cutter, you know, and he hits the referee. He gets pushed into the referee, turns around, Owens gives him like a shitty looking Kevin Owens stunner, right? And then Kevin Owens pins him, the referee is gone. The fans start chanting, 1, 2, 3, this is normal, but they were chanting in like disappointment, right? And basically, Jesse the Body Ventura is like, he's won the match. He's won the match. And then meanwhile, those 2 stooges, Michael Cole and Corey Graves, are like, well, it's about ring. Corey Graves is like, it's about ring awareness. Kevin Owens shouldn't have pushed Cody into the referee. Now, this is fucking insane, right? This is just stupid shit. It's just like Corey Graves and Michael Cole consistently glazing Cody Rhodes, because Cody Rhodes cannot stay over without this kind of glazing. But Jesse the Body Ventura says, how about the referee's incompetence, right? How about the referee's incompetence? The referee's job is to not be in the way. He was in the way, right? Second referee comes out. I mean, it's too late at this point, right? Cody eventually kicks out. Then Cody goes for another springboard, and he hits the other referee. You know, enough of the springboards from Cocky Rhodes. Anyways, Kevin Owens goes to get the chair. I don't like how when the referees were down, Kevin Owens didn't try to do a pile driver. You know, wasn't this kind of like built into the story? Wasn't part of the story that Kevin Owens pile drives motherfucks, right? As far as I understood, that's how it was, right? Like basically, Kevin Owens wants to end careers. He wants to break necks, and he could have pile driven Cody. And just by the virtue of the fact that like the pile driver has put Randy Orton out, this should 100% get the 3, right? So after the stunner, you should have picked him up, pile driven him, you know? That's been introduced now as like Kevin Owens like super finisher, right? That's like his like put you out move, right? It's the equivalent of like Cody Rhodes' 3, crossroads, right? It's like that. Why didn't he do it? He had the opportunity, but instead he went to get a chair, which was uncharacteristic. It would have been better for him to just pile drive this jobber. But anyways, he didn't do that. So as a result, basically, while the other referee's knocked down, Cody Rhodes gets the upper hand and does a crossroads onto the chair that Kevin Owens brought in. Meanwhile, Charles Robinson is getting up, but he can't get in the ring, right? It would take too long, right? And he has to sell the fact that Cody Rhodes cannot hold Kevin Owens down for like 30 seconds, even though it took like probably like 5 or 6. So he can't get in because the place where he wakes up, right, the place where he comes to is like near the corner, right? And that's where Kevin Owens is getting pinned. So he has to, like, essentially, in order for this to make sense, he has to move a few feet to the left, run into the ring, turn around, get down, and then start counting. This is going to take like 5-6 seconds. So instead, Charles Robinson, being the veteran that he is, he instead counts from outside the ring, which I'm not even sure that's legal. But anyways, he counts, he has clear view of what's going on. He's like holding one rope and counting with the other hand. It was like this weird finish. Kevin Owens doesn't kick out, which is the correct decision, because he just took like a finishing move on a chair, right? And the fans give Cody Rhodes this like lukewarm reception after this, right? Some people are still into Cody. They're still doing the whoa, 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 you know, but the writing's on the wall, right? The writing's on the wall. It's turning. Like, and this match, to be fair, did a little bit of that, right? The match prepared us for what hopefully will be a Cody Rhodes heel run. I think that'd be great. Like, I would start liking Cody, you know what I mean? Like, Cody Rhodes has a lot of very good attributes. The ultimate attribute that he has is he looks like an asshole, right? He looks like a Ken doll, right? So he looks kind of like a douchebag. So if he plays the role of the douchebag, I'm all for it. I love that kind of stuff, right? But playing the role of the hero just doesn't behoove Cody Rhodes' abilities. Cody Rhodes is not the people's champion. He's not The Rock. He's not John Cena. He doesn't have that charisma to do that. He has a dark charisma sometimes when he plays evil characters, right? Like Cody Rhodes playing a sadistic heel would be like so compelling, just like it was when he did the whole like Phantom of the Opera thing. You know what I mean? That was fucking awesome. That's like that's like peak Cody Rhodes. So if he, shifts towards that and becomes a heel, and it's like him versus Orton at, WrestleMania, and he just like puts Orton down for good, that'd be pretty cool. You know what I mean? Or like not for good, but for like a year again, like that'd be pretty cool. Like I would actually look forward to that match. But if he's involved in the world title scene, I'm not gonna. Nobody. I don't think anybody's gonna be excited. Now, insofar as like apparently a lot of people on the internet thought that Kevin Owens was gonna win, and to that I have to say just one thing: is this your first time watching wrestling, jabron? You know what I'm saying? Obviously, Kevin Owens is not gonna win. Kevin Owens is an undercard, maybe on his best day, mid-card jobber. I know what you're thinking. Man, he was in the main event tonight. It doesn't matter. It doesn't count. It's Saturday night main event. You know what I mean? Nobody gives a flying fuck about this, as evidenced by the fact that Roman Reigns didn't show up, The Rock didn't show up, CM Punk didn't show up, not even Triple H showed up. You know what I mean? I thought Triple H was going to open the show, but I guess he didn't. Even he is beyond this. So anyways, the point is now this show, I will admit, exists in a vacuum, right? It's not really part of the canon. You know what I mean? So like if on Friday, let's say Cody Rhodes comes out and he pretty much like no-sells the fact that this match even happened, that would be understandable. That's not what they're going to do, but they could do that, right? It's not really part of the, part of like the meta, if you will, right? But of course, this feud's going to continue because Kevin Owens now has a legitimate like complaint, which is like, you cheated. He cheated, So, however, like, what's the feud premised on, right? It's premised on Cody Rhodes being a bad friend, and this didn't establish whether or not Cody Rhodes is or is not a bad friend. It did, however, establish that Kevin Owens can't get it done. You know what I mean? So with all that being said, it's like, why would we continue this feud? What is this penchant that people have to fucking continue feuds that nobody cares about, At this point, I feel like everyone who has any sense is asking, what's Cody Rhodes' next move? Like the only way, like, okay, here's a scenario. Maybe Cody Rhodes has a rematch with Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens wins. He gets his title shot. And then immediately he like gets squashed by Goldberg, right? And this sets up Goldberg versus like Cena or something, That would be compelling just to like save Cody Rhodes from a Goldberg beating, But like, if that's going to happen. So with all that being said, it's like that none of that like was moved forward at all today. As a matter of fact, nothing was moved forward at all today, right? Like if for example, if on Monday, Drew McIntyre decides to attack Jimmy Uso, Jey Uso, or Sami Zayn, like would anyone be surprised? Like if he just attacked Sami Zayn again? Like what did he get out of this? Okay, he beat him in a match. Great. Like by beating Sami Zayn, he did rehabilitate himself as a mid-carder. He's still like a jobber at this point. Sami Zayn, even if he had won, he wouldn't have like gotten a rub out of this. Right? Like, what's the point of all of this? Why wasn't Seth Rollins involved? Why weren't anyone that's like that has more than one title win involved, right? This entire pay-per-view is like basically bolstered by a few people that are like one-time champions, most of whom have had shitty title runs. Like, or Drew McIntyre, I guess he's been a two-time champion, but I would say both of his runs were garbage. Part of that is the fact that it was during COVID, but nevertheless, that's not the haters' problem, dog. So with that being said, I didn't enjoy this at all, and that's how that went down. Cuckolds. I give the show, like, I don't know what to give it, because the matches, like, even though nothing was advanced, it's like the matches that we thought we were gonna get, we got, and they played out as we thought. So like, I can't give it a 0. I gotta give it a 3, I think, a 4. I'll give it a 4. It could have gotten all the way up to a 5 or a 6, but because of the double commercials, I can't do that. I can't justify giving this anything more than that. But like, it's a good addition to WWE programming, right? Because it's like, if you watch Raw, right, and you watch SmackDown, there's a lot of things that wouldn't make it on this card, right? Like for example, the Street Profits are not going to be on this card because they're complete jobbers. They're like undercard jobbers. They're not even mid-carders at this point. Like Pretty Deadly, Austin Theory and Grayson Waller, DIY, fucking Motor City Machine Guns, Otis, Tozawa, Chad Gable, like that level of wrestler. These are like your Raw and SmackDown level of wrestlers, and they're not going to make it on anything that's above that, right? And this match was all people that are above that, except for, of course, what's it called? Chelsea Green and Michin, which might never be on pay-per-view again. But nevertheless, the moment, if this title sticks around for 100 years, the moment is significant, right? Like, if in 100 years, people like are still watching wrestling and the women's US title is still a thing, right? This match will have significance. And fuck it, not 100 years, 10 years. In 10 years, if people are still watching wrestling, people are going to look back at this event and be like, oh, this is when the first women's United States champion was crowned, right? Nobody's going to give a fuck as to why Kevin Owens and Cody Rhodes wrestled, or why Sami Zayn and Drew McIntyre wrestled. Nobody cares, right? It's just like when you watch any kind of old pay-per-view, it's like, you don't give a fuck why, like, Steve Blackman is, wrestling like Bob Holly, right? You don't give a shit at all. It's like, all right, they were wrestling, I'm sure they had a feud, nobody cares. Like, we just want to move on to the things that are memorable. And the only thing that was memorable here, obviously, would be, if at all, the women's United States championship match. Nothing else here is gonna withstand the test of time. In 3 months, no one's gonna give a fuck about what happened here. You know what I mean? No one's gonna like have fond memories of going to Saturday Night Main Event. Nobody gives a shite. So with that being said, that's what the haters has to say. And as a result of that, I'm giving this event a 4 out of 10 on the hater scale. Cuckolds. 4 out of 10. 4 stars out of 10. Cuckolds.